Recording is on.
Hello and welcome to the DXgov governance discussion. Today is the 22nd of December and we're all in very festive spirits. Let's jump in right to the proposal roundup. Not a lot on the agenda today, but we do have a couple of proposals live. So on mainnet, there's a proposal for reimbursements for Augusto, who has been deploying some smart contracts, so that's passing soon. Then we also have a proposal which is mirrored on both mainnet and XI, which is to approve the DXD vesting distribution to contributors. So as most of you know, we've been falling somewhat behind on actually deploying the vesting contracts for DXD. So this proposal just goes over the amounts owed to every given contributor and looking to then, after this proposal passes, finally uh, also deploy those smart contracts. And in the future, we'll actually be able to do that automatically with our worker proposals on XI, at least through the new wallet schemes. Following on, we have a Lisbon expenses, ETH reimbursement, and a rep sync from Caney Fork. So that's a very efficient proposal, doing a lot of transfers and minting in one single transaction. That's how we like it. Then we also have Keenan's rep mint and burn proposal still up and live, passing in a couple of days, I believe. Then again, we have a mirrored proposal both on main and XI, which is the DXD pay structure update. So I know this is something which has been live on the forum as well for a while, so I believe you're all up to date with it, but it's somewhat of a slight increase in pays. But not only that, also an increase in the number of contributor levels we have, both to adapt to market rates, adjust a bit for inflation, but most importantly also give like a longer path or a way to increase your level at DXDAO by extending the number of levels, and on the lower end also to try and attract more people who perhaps do not have that much experience and give them an opportunity to onboard to DXDAO. So that's very exciting. Make sure to go check that out and cast your vote. And moving on again, we have another mirrored proposal, which is the ETH Denver sponsorship. So this is for the upcoming ETH Denver event, where a lot of DXL members will actually be attending in person. And I know this has been talked about a lot. I don't know if Sky or Melanie, you guys wanted to say anything just on the record for the call about it. Maybe give a brief overview of it.
Yeah, just that this is a example of an on-chain agreement. ETH Denver kind of operates, well, Spork DAO is a DAO that like ETH Denver is part of that, but obviously ETH Denver also has a legal entity. And so they normally, when you do sponsorships and things, you have kind of a written legal contract. We've communicated a number of times that DXDAO doesn't have the ability to sign like paper legal contracts. There's really no way to do that. So even if you figured out, I don't know, if person did on behalf or something, it still wouldn't be an agreement with the DAO. And so on-chain proposal is like the best way to initiate an agreement. There are parts of the sponsorship that are public, or some that are less public. So we kind of structured in a way that if like exact details were wanted to be known, like you could reach out to like the core team and you could probably reference those, but putting everything on into like the public proposal is not necessarily the way it's done. But yeah, so so it's like basically a sponsorship of ETH Denver, which is happening in February. There's a whole bunch of things that come with that, including having like a table presence and being able to participate and give prizes in the hackathon. So we should really start to think about what types of things we would ask hackers in the hackathon to hack on in the DXDAO ecosystem. Obviously, we didn't have too much success on the online virtual one that we did with ETH Global like a few months ago. So an in-person one where we're going to have representatives there, we're going to have mentors there, and we could really, recruit and attract people to build or try things out with some of DXDAO's products, maybe whether it's Carrot, new ideas around Carrot, or potentially DXgov type new ideas. Yeah, and really get DXDAO's name out into the ETH Denver community. And that event typically has always been like a pretty strong, like 3 or 4 day weekend event. This year, my guess is that it's going to kind of expand into what's been happening around like ETH Paris and ETH Lisbon. It becomes a week-long thing, lots of different companies and protocols and communities have their own events, big corporations show up and throw parties as well. And so it turns into like a week-long massive schedule of lots of things that you can actually do. And so having as many people in our community there as possible to participate and, spread the word and talk about DXDAO's products and things is ideal. But yeah, that's the payment of the proposal is actually going to move on mainnet, but we mirrored it on XDAI just to have signal. And the money is moving in DAI straight to like the multi-sig of the actual ETH Denver entity. So yeah, that's a summary. There's still a handful of things we need to sort out like around the event, like potentially DXDAO having some of its own little drinks or something, or supplying drinks to the hackathon, and then also merch and having a table that has a base and being able to hand out different types of merch and things to people. But yeah, that's the summary. And
Awesome.
Anything else? No.
And Corona permitting, most of us will be there. Sweet. And then the last proposal live on mainnet is actually the staking of ETH, the second proposal. So I know this is something we've talked about a lot as well. So we already staked 500 ETH right on Lido, which is already back in the treasury and rebasing daily. So already yielding somewhat on our initial amount of staked ETH. And this second proposal just kind of closes up the proposal by staking a further 500 ETH, this time spread around Stakewise and Rocket Pool. Then moving on to Gnosis Chain, or XDAI. I believe Gnosis Chain is the correct terminology now. We have a number of worker proposals, including Violet worker proposal, Melanie contributor proposal, Ross, Milton, and Lutrux as well. Then we also have the buybacks going on. So buyback number 95 should be passing imminently, and 96 and 97 are also lined up. So we're keeping that going. It's very easy to keep track of the buyback now due to funds such as Ether or WETH being bridged, being allocated and put directly into the Gnosis protocol relayer. So, it's easy to just look at the Gnosis protocol relay and see kind of where we're standing there. But that's moving ahead good and well. And then, of course, we have the mirrored proposals here. So we have the DXDAO pay structure proposal and the ETH sponsorship proposal. Other than that, we have the audit of the DX governance contract. So this is actually by Team Omega, and it's actually around the whole DX vote and DX governance contract. Not sure, Ross or John, if you want to give a brief overview of what the audit is about, but I think it's about the whole suite, more or less, right?
Yeah, John can maybe go into a bit more detail since he sort of organized the audit, but the scope of it is kind of going over the wallet scheme, which is the new parts, and has already been audited, but it's kind of taking in a larger scope. And that was kind of spurred on by the bug we found in the wallet scheme just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, Ross covered it. And the DAO Stack contracts had previously been audited by DAO Stack, and then there had been an audit for the initial wallet schemes, but this is to encompass kind of all of it. And yeah, just I think generally a good idea to take a deeper look at the governance stuff as we're moving towards governance 2.0 and using this with more and more funds.
And maybe this is kind of jumping to Dave's favorite proposals coming up. But it'd be interesting to, like, in this process, to understand things like, oh, we can trade with multi-call scheme on XDAI, or like kind of understand these different things. So there's still a lot that we maybe take for granted.
Yeah, exactly. We should be doing a better job. It's kind of on my plate too, and I can work with Ross on getting some of the documentation a little clearer and kind of describing what the system is and the approach to like security, basically, where the different restrictions are, why, and like what the plan is kind of moving forward to try to make more things more flexible.
So Chris already spoiled this, but the latest and greatest proposal, of course, is on Gnosis Chain, which is a test proposal to swap 10 wrap XI to USDC on Curve 3 pool. So there are actually two separate proposals for this, and this is actually using the generic multi-core schemes on XDAI or Gnosis Chain, whatever. So this currently would be much more difficult to do on mainnet, but essentially one transaction actually just approves the three pool on Curve to spend 10 wrap XDAI from the DAO treasury, and the second one places an order to swap wrap XDAI for USDC. So one of them is currently already boosted, and the other one is pre-boosted. So these should be passing out towards the end of the week. But if this works correctly, it would actually be quite interesting and nice, because it means that in the future we'll be able to simply, whenever we bridge funds from mainnet to Gnosis Chain, to do that in wrapped XDAI. And then the treasury anyway has the ability to unwrap XDAI, which we've already seen. And it's just a habit that, as of now, how we do work proposals, people just request XDAI just because it's easier and the UI guides you to do that, and it's totally fine. But just having these abilities to do stuff directly with the treasury is already a nice step, which we're able to take thanks to DXgov. And yeah, it's very exciting, and I don't see why it wouldn't go through, but yeah, this is a test proposal. And actually, we should also be able to do them in a single proposal. So given that we can do multiple calls in one multi-call, we can actually do the authorization and the trade in one single proposal, which doesn't change much technically, other than they happen in one transaction. So it's just one proposal less, of course, as well on our governance platform, and less gas fees. Although I'm not sure about that. Well, but yeah, and that's pretty much already wrapping up everything. So no proposals currently live on Arbitrum, and the other discussion item is just Merry Christmas to everyone.
Dave, before we get to the Merry Christmas, on your very, very cool proposal, I guess would that fail if the funds were going someplace else? Is that kind of like the way I guess the multi-call scheme would work, that it allows you to like move things in the treasury, but like you can't send those funds someplace else? That can only happen through the contribution reward.
Yeah. So if you look at the proposal, there's actually no funds being transferred. That's why we need two proposals, right? So the first one is an authorization, and then if you look at the contract that's authorized to withdraw these 10 wrap XDAI, you can look it up on Block Scout. It's actually the contract of the 3 pool on Curve. And then the trade also doesn't actually move any funds. It just requests the trade. And given that that contract has now been granted the ability to withdraw 10 wrapped XDAI, it would be able to withdraw those wrapped XDAIs and transform them in USDC. And Curve also doesn't have the ability to send the exchange tokens to a different address. They're always returned to the source. So in this case, whoever's doing the call, which is the Gnosis Chain treasury. So yeah, there's not really a way. We're not really sending funds, and there's not really a way on the Curve side either to redirect them, like you might be able to do on a bridge, for example, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's cool. I just understand. I think it's the authorization, the withdrawal, I think was the key.
Yeah. And I mean, in the future, if we also have like some wallet schemes deployed. Maybe we'll even have some wallet schemes for the treasury, where a subpart of the treasury is, and where this can be managed more easily in a way. We could even think about doing like an infinite approval, so we would not even have to do the approval. But for now it's just a test transaction, so I definitely wouldn't want to move there directly. And anyway, we also have the ability to do approvals and trades in the same transaction as well. So I'm not even sure if that's really a necessity, but it is also an option. So that's also something we could look into. And if I'm saying anything wrong, John or Ross, technically wise, please do feel free to correct me, of course.
No, that sounded good. I think the only thing about the like unlimited approval would be like, it might make sense on the wallet schemes if we had one just for trading and we know that it's already got like the risk to the smart contracts there, so it's not really an issue.
Oh yeah, and absolutely.
Obviously, we wouldn't do that with the treasury.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the reason why I said that is that wallet schemes actually have their own treasury, right? So we wouldn't be authorizing the whole funds in the treasury, but just those that are actually in that wallet scheme. So that's actually why I said that, in case someone was confused.
Yeah, just to clarify, in case it came across as we're going to approve
exactly
100 million to cow swap or whatever.
Yeah, I think you did a good job there, David. I do think like approving and calling something is effectively ends up being the same transfer as if you were to it's not the same thing, but it's still a transfer of funds, even if you're not using like the send. So in some ways it's kind of this same idea. And generally speaking, the XDAI has this flexibility, but it's been restricted on mainnet out of like concerns for security. So that's sort of like just the general setup right now.
I think that was like kind of my question is like, could you do two proposals to like transfer funds through the multi-call scheme and not through the contribution reward on mainnet? But I guess because there's a whitelist on mainnet, there's probably much more.
Yeah, mainnet has more and I think this was actually maybe not exactly the intent when we set up the multi-call on XDAI, but the XDAI multi-call can do like it can do the approves and I think maybe even send funds, but that's locked down on mainnet. Like there's no approvals and no sending of funds through multi-calls. So you'd have to use the contribution reward first. And then in addition to that, on mainnet, there is the whitelist. So on mainnet, the multi-calls can only interact with the whitelisted ones in any way. So that's why we end up using relayers like the Gnosis protocol relayer on mainnet. And I think ideally we get to a newer system where the proposal process is a little more flexible and elegant, but we can still be confident in the security. And we have some ideas about that, but I think it still needs some thought. And like this, these audits and stuff are part of us getting to where we need to be, kind of moving into the future.
Sweet. And maybe the best proposal is the lack of any malicious proposals over this holiday season so far. So. And I don't know if anyone else wants to discuss anything governance related, etc. Feel free to speak your mind.
Just the one thing with initiative DAO proposal that had passed on XDAI, I believe that proposal still it doesn't show up. You basically can't find it and you can't reference it and you can't see it. So I think it moved money. In a scenario like that, there's nothing to reference when we talk about initiative DAO. So I was either going to take the text or try to get the text from it and put it onto the forum and use that as the reference point and link the things together there, or potentially do another proposal that actually shows the text and also references the thing that passed. Is there any recommendation? Yeah.
So just to clarify on that, maybe it's being a little bit technical, but I think it's an important clarification. Is the proposal is visible, right, in passive, but the IPFS hash is not resolving any of the content.
Yeah, I believe so. And
Yeah.
and in this case, I'm not even sure. Like, you can go look in DXgov and try to find it. Like, there's no way to find it, right?
Well,
Because
because you can't search via even the title is not showing, right? So it's like, I think the proposal is there, and if you knew when and like, you could probably find it with a little trouble, but yeah, I mean, especially since it's so did it transferred the funds for the initiative DAO, right?
to the initiative DAO multi-sig, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So I feel like, yeah, if the funds were transferred, in a way, I think that's sort of self-evident. Although, I mean, if there's, you know,
yeah, but I guess so. My point is, like, there were some details around, like, some guidelines around the initiative DAO. They were in that proposal, and now
right, and
they're
yeah.
not. No one can find them anywhere. So where I want to put them up somewhere? Should I just put them in the forum post, or should I do another Signal proposal that, like, puts it on chain?
Yeah, I think Keenan and I were talking about this because he had the same thing for his mainnet rep sync proposals, that he had put the information in the proposal itself, but it didn't get uploaded to IPFS. And I think he had then created a DAO Talk post and then linked to the specific proposal in the DAO Talk post. So that was like the connection to there. So you can see the actual on-chain actions in the proposal through DXvote or Alchemy or whatever, and then see in DAO Talk like what the contents were. I think, like, just from a like meta governance perspective, I think what we could, like, you can see now, which is like on the blockchain, this happened, is like Skymine Labs, who has, you know, I guess 4% rep on XDAI or something, submit a proposal, and then Caney Fork voted for it. So like, we're kind of, I guess, the responsible parties in a way, like in terms of like governance being able. So we would probably be the ones that would be held accountable or questioned for that. And I think, like, I had a reason to vote for it. I actually, like, asked you about it specifically, like what it was, and we had talked about it. So I felt comfortable voting for it. So there is like context there that like governance would be able to like check up on even the on-chain actions itself. But I think, as you're saying, in terms of referencing things going forward, it's really nice to have like a permanent reference for things. And yeah, if that's in the forum when the proposal isn't there, then I guess that's what we need to do. But I think hopefully going forward, this isn't an issue that we have, because of we were kind of, I think, fixing the IPFS stuff.
So forum was one option, but I was just thinking, like, actually doing a new, I don't know what you would call this. It's like a Signal proposal that like actually says, it's going to say like, this is linking to this proposal which passed. Here was the text that was in this proposal. Like, let's just pass this to show that this was verified, and here is the actual text you can reference, right? And it really links it on chain.
I think I guess we can do it on XDAI or something like that, right? So it's not too.
Yeah, this was always on. Yeah, this was on.
Yeah, especially where I think that makes sense, because the Signal aspect of it is kind of non-existent without the record being intact, right? And so, I mean, in terms of, I think like the Keenan rep example, it's sort of less of a Signal proposal, and like the action itself is kind of like, people voting and paying attention need to figure that out, and we've done that kind of like off chain there, right? So we know that this is a mint and a burn, and you can kind of infer that even from the two proposals. But for Signal proposals without the actual text, it's sort of not achieving the purpose, right? Because there's nothing. The whole point is to establish a reference that can guide us and be referred back to in the future.
Yeah, it's like a new DAO, and this is like its manifesto, and with the title and description completely missing is just a transaction hash. So it's a DAO that was established for a certain purpose with a certain manifesto, and it's now missing, and you could basically do whatever you want with it, which isn't appropriate. So what we'd probably need to do is something like a signature, sign a transaction with a certain text to say that transaction hash is for this particular purpose, and include the original text that was intended to be included.
Cool. Okay, so I'll do a new proposal. In this case, it's not like a huge deal. This is just like a little thing, But like if this ever happens again on something really important, obviously it would be good to have like a process that we've kind of used before, and this is almost like a test, right? Like, and this maybe we'll see if this works well, but this is probably going to happen again, right?
But I guess if you're submitting something important, like people should also check that the IPFS hash works, because in DXgov you actually have the ability to get the hash, and it actually even tells you to check right before. So like,
how long does it? Yeah, because sometimes you try to check it, and even if it's working, like it still takes like 15 minutes or something to show up, right?
Yeah, so in the new version of DXvote, this should be at least partially resolved, where we're actually just waiting before the user can even continue. So if it's not uploading properly to IPFS, it won't let you go through with the entire thing.
Ah, sweet.
It should be instant, but there's like IPFS sometimes has issues, gateways can have issues, uploading can have issues. Yeah, we need to add more redundancy there. That's kind of the longer term solution. But yeah.
Sky, I was just thinking we could also send the funds back, and then just redo the proposal, like from the beginning. Or just another signal proposal. But I agree that having the on-chain legitimacy is important for this because it sets the standard. And I think, like, thinking back on it, I don't know if we should have passed this proposal, because it like wasn't that important for the funds to get transferred. Really, what was important to like convey and establish this, right? And so if it didn't get loaded on IPFS, then like, well, then that proposal wasn't good. We need to do it like again. That's
a good idea. Yeah, we might as well. We can send the funds back and then just redo it. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense actually.
This never happened.
I have a question. Do you think you'll be able to like replicate this? Like happening?
What do you mean?
Just like cause this to happen again?
The bug or like the uploading issues?
The bug, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the bugs, if anything happens with the IPFS and it gets created, then like the IPFS, it doesn't exist on IPFS, it doesn't exist anywhere. You'd have to create an exact copy and then upload it again.
But as you said, Ross, DXvote doesn't allow you to upload it now.
Yeah, we're like addressing it in DXvote.
So even if there is so even if there is a bug, DXvote just wouldn't let you submit it now.
Okay.
Regardless, in like the next while anyways, people should get into practice of checking and making sure the IPFS hash is there and that it loads properly.
Does this also happen if IPFS stops pinning something?
I mean, technically anything can disappear from IPFS, right? It's not permanent.
Yeah, there's a structural issue with IPFS where there's a reliance on the pinning servers that are not actually being, like, we're not paying them, or there's no like proper incentive, like crypto economic incentive for them to keep it. I mean, the way it works is like Pinata is the service, right? And kind of relying on them. We should probably be looking at other ways to make it more redundant. In terms of using IPFS, I think individual members could be running our own nodes and pinning services. That might be a good redundancy. And then I think the Gov team, Ross, maybe you could say something about too. Like I looked a little bit into Filecoin. Is it Web3 storage is what they're calling it?
Yeah, Web3 storage is like the easiest way currently, I think, to use Filecoin. It's like a combination of Filecoin and Pinata. And so it's like using that alone doesn't resolve it, but if we had that as well as Pinata, as well as the like just local IPFS uploading, then that kind of resolves it. The other thing, I was talking to, I think it was Sky, or is it Nathan? I can't remember, that sent me the Skynet Telegram group, and I was chatting with them. And so it would require a smart contract change because we need an extra field for the hash there, but we could use Skynet for this as another redundancy.
Yeah, and I'm a little fuzzy on the difference between Skynet and Siacoin and Filecoin and what. But I know with like Sia, the original network there, but it's its own blockchain, so there's a little bit of a difficulty paying for that from a DAO on Ethereum. Like it's paid storage and it's distributed on their decentralized network. So it's, as long as the network is functioning, it's sort of like the blockchain effectively, where you can't really take something down, like or it's very hard for something to be removed unintentionally, like through, you know, multiple nodes could go down and the documents on Sia network would still be intact.
Yeah, like the BitTorrent protocol. Yeah.
So what if the text, because there's already NFT projects that do this. What if the text of the proposal, when you say upload, we upload it to like IPFS plus Arweave plus Skynet, and then we only use IPFS in DXvote, but you have in the hash of the proposal or something, you have like the actual hashes of the other two as well. That way, if IPFS goes down, we can always go manually look at it on Arweave or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, we could even automate it, but that's what I was saying with if we were going to use Skynet, the issue is that they have different hashes, so we need a new contract. Another thing we're doing with the wallet schemes is we actually have a field for title. Title's obviously quite short usually, so it's not an issue to store that on chain. And so we're storing titles on chain with the new wallet schemes. So that's kind of a partially addressing it. We could look at even adding a description, but obviously the issue there is you're going to be looking at higher gas and stuff.
The fastest thing to kind of help secure our system a little bit better with, you know, beyond Pinata might be for us to individually start running some pinning services. Because really all you have to have is the document somewhere, because cryptographically you can prove that it's the same one, right? It doesn't need to be on IPFS per se, right? Like it just has to be resolved to the same hash.
Yeah, the way I see it, kind of with everything that's off chain, it's just a peer-to-peer network. The best way for us to be more decentralized is just redundancy. If we have 5 services that we have as backups, then like that's kind of as good as not as good.
Exactly. Like I think in general we will need to have keepers anyway, like keepers who are doing something on some network for the DXDAO off-chain work. And I think we should start as soon as possible with it. Pushing the proposal data on Arweave makes sense. I mean, I don't think Arweave, like once it's put on Arweave, it will never go offline again, right? So far, Arweave never went offline, even though it's still a young network. But having like, I think, pushing that stuff on Arweave and Skynet makes sense, and we should like invest in like community keepers who are. I think that there's a way to like, I don't know, put like an Arweave address on ENS, and then we can actually verify that some community member is actually like doing the keeper work on Arweave, and then we just pay them for their work.
Yeah, agree with all that. I don't know if some homework for us, I guess.
And I think like we can start, like John already said, like maybe we do like a working group with like core contributors and everyone who's interested in running keepers should. And I think we should actually call out like the community, because it would be better if the developers are actually not running it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just hearing us talk about this, it is really exciting if we like have this capability, because then we really are like, sovereign, redundant, like independent. Like these are the types of things we need like long term. And I don't really know if anyone else is thinking of it.
And announcing like DXDAO, like let's say anyone that runs these things, right, on behalf of supporting like decentralization of things related to DXDAO, you can get like 100 X DAI a month or 50 X DAI a month, whatever it is. Like DXDAO has a budget of $5,000 a month or $3,000 a month to like pay a handful of people that are running this. So actually incentivize them and like DAO paying open community to make sure its products are decentralized, basically, right?
Also, like very important is like I consider this like new group of contributors as like a new type. Like we have core contributors who are like doing work. I mean, infrastructure work is part of it, right? But they could be like our infrastructure providers. And I think it's very important that we give them rep to keep them in like the community.
For Arweave in particular, I don't believe we need to have this like middle service. It's basically what Arweave does. We just need to integrate it in DXvote, and just the way we upload to IPFS, we will just be uploading to Arweave. And the difference between the two is with IPFS, you need pinning. With Arweave, every node has to have each and every file, and they don't go obsolete over time.
So Arweave is a blockchain. Someone needs to pay the transaction to put it on the blockchain.
Yeah, well, DXDAO would have to do that, because how do we... I think it will be much more complex if we put these keepers in between DXvote and people putting proposals. With CSGI in particular, Ross and I asked them whether we'd need to be running nodes, and they said that it's not necessary for us to run nodes or anyone to run nodes. We just interact with their network.
Yeah, that's true. Like you don't need to run nodes, but someone needs to, like, if someone is creating a proposal, so who puts the data on Arweave?
It's the same way it is with IPFS. Like
No. IPFS is like a different type of network. Like I can
Geronimo,
just pin.
like the person who's paying to do the proposal could effectively like have to have their Arweave account as well or something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like
That's the same
like
thing as running infrastructure, though. Basically, like someone's paying for the Arweave stuff on behalf of DXDAO. It's the same way as like someone running a node on behalf of DXDAO.
But we don't want that like proposal creators should know anything about Arweave. I think this should be abstracted away by like infrastructure providers.
Right. And I think Geronimo's bigger point is like, this is not just about Arweave and IPFS and uploading. Like DXDAO has lots of dependencies on infrastructure. And so like figuring out a incentive system for that. And I like the idea of carving out like a new contributor, like an element to it, I think is what we need to be doing regardless of the Arweave and IPFS stuff.
Like thinking about being a validator, right? The DXgov will probably not be able to be a validator anytime soon. So we will need to like build up a community around infrastructure providers who do a service for the DXgov, even like in the name of DXgov. If they provide a good service and they receive they earned a specific amount of rep, then they could even like brand themselves as DXgov, right? Potentially, because if they own like some part of DXgov with rep, they can or they should potentially like do as like DXgov.
And also, how about the current proposals from the past periods? Say, we've used Pinata, but what if in like 3 or 4 months time from now, there is some proposal that no one ever visited and used the IPFS hash to read it? Like it would literally disappear. And so does that mean that hypothetically in half a year, half of the proposals on DXvote would be irreversibly gone and inaccessible?
Yeah, so this is again like a nice example for having infrastructure providers. Like we could literally write up like a specification of what those people need to do, or those companies need to do. And one of this would be like to scrap all the existing data on IPFS and actually put the whole package like each quarter on Arweave, so it will always exist, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is kind of what Web3 storage. I'm not super. I don't know super detailed what they're doing in the background with the contracts for Filecoin, but I think this is kind of what they're aiming to fix with having the not super decentralized. I don't think the way they're doing it, but it's still served on IPFS and it's pinned on IPFS, but there's still Filecoin backups, I believe, with contracts. And Filecoin just now has like excess storage, which is why you get like a terabyte for free with Web3 storage.
Yeah, exactly. Like Filecoin is another data bucket we could reuse, right? Like the third one, Skynet, even IPFS, Arweave, and Filecoin. Like having those four, like I don't think our data will ever like be removed.
Yeah, that would be like ultimate redundancy. The nice thing about Web3 storage though is we still have the IPFS content hashes, so we don't really need to change much. So short term, that might be the easiest, or well, it is the easiest to implement.
I feel like this could be, I mean, we're probably not the only ones with this problem, right? Like this could be something that
for everyone else uses AWS.
Yeah, I mean, but like other DAOs, right? If they want to use like decentralized services, like I don't know, like
Yeah,
a way to
that's why Web3 storage exists.
Oh, okay. And is it for all of them? Or
I mean, not for everything. I don't think anything's done that yet. But I mean, yeah, I'd say it's maybe not something that's our responsibility. Like it's a lot of work.
Like
Usually,
actually,
to just like use something like Web3 storage and have them handle all this for us.
But it's nice that we're going through these pains ourselves, building DXgov, so that if we nail it right, we have something to offer to future DAOs. You know, we're solving problems. Because as Chris said, as an answer to Alan, like all the other DAOs, quote unquote, they don't use any decentralized infrastructure. They're just using, snapshot and whatnot. So it's like they don't even care about that stuff. But a time will come and they should care. And we're the only ones in the space building this. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if just like documenting our process, just kind of like our or like whatever IPFS content hash update process and all these things. Like very soon, I mean, it's already happening a little bit, but very soon, like more and more sort of quote unquote DAOs are gonna come looking for processes to actually do things in a decentralized way.
Yeah, so I mean, the important thing about the idea of us running our own like keepers or whatever, and like our own internal infrastructure for this is that it doesn't scale to when we offer governance to other DAOs. We can't tell them to go and run their own things. We need that could be a good option for us as like a last line of defense, or just
we actually Geronimo was actually alluding to something that Federico is building. We actually have that, the keepers. So it's something that Federico will be presenting to the DAO soon. And
keepers is the wrong word. I mean, like pinners or just that service. Keepers or something different.
Yep. But Ross, we should probably, take David up on that offer to have a meeting with him. He offered us a call to explain how their storage works.
David
Warwick.
The guy from He was on the BizDev call a while ago with their home screen stuff.
Oh, cool. I had a call with Daniel the other day, by the way.
Yeah, that was Daniel. But yeah, David, we have a Telegram group, and David was helping us with, figuring out how we could, find a better alternative to the IPFS Pinata problems we're having. Dave, anything else?
But they're like now two interesting things, right? Like the off-chain keeper work for like reproducing our data on like decentralized networks, and then like Luzi's keeper project, which serves like the DXdAO for like Ethereum off-chain transaction, off-chain work, which needs to be done. So like there are two great initiatives there. And I think with Lucy's project, I think the DXdAO could even pay out DXD for like keeper work on the Ethereum network.
Yeah, possibly he's banging his head with the tokenomics. It could be any. It's yet to be determined. It's difficult.
What happened there in the background?
It's my fan. My laptop just had its fan turn on. What does it sound like?
That's funny.
Yeah, preparing to take off.
By the way, what happened with like the Pocket Network partnership?
Yeah, well, we passed the signal proposal, and I reached out to them, and they said that they will prepare some endpoints for us. They're just struggling with figuring out the amount of requests that we'd be sending their way, and because currently it's mostly Swapper that has the most activity. So
we've been spamming it quite a lot with DXvote. We're using it now to build the cache as well. So
yeah, good job. They would be happy to see more traffic.
Ross, is there a way to share that amount in the number, or like what it
I don't
means?
know. I'd imagine we can give them the gateways we're using.
So they
I think
can
we just stole them off them.
Whoever signed up to the gateway,
I guess.
I just took them from Geronimo's ones that he used on Omen.
If it's a public one, if it's a custom one, you can log into Pocket and see your network.
I'm not sure. Do you know Geronimo where they came from?
Yeah, I have access. I can actually look into it.
Nice, yeah. We can maybe send them that, or just see if it's a decent amount.
Okay, Sky, I will send a screenshot.
Sweet. Because like the whole idea was like we need to, well, the goal is to ramp up, usage of our products, and then in turn that would also ramp up usage of request to Pocket, and then like the more we're using it, the more then we can take the next step, and the next step is like buy some of their tokens. And I think we want to buy some of their tokens at their OTC price, like sooner than later if possible, and then eventually like they're running the nodes for us, and then eventually, according to the conversation we just had, then people in the DXDAO community can run the nodes too or something. But yeah, buy the tokens soon. But yeah, really, we need to start using it more, I guess, as much as possible.
Yeah, I would like. I think that's several times I signaled like positive about we should do a token swap as soon as possible. But I think we already missed out a little bit on like price appreciation. I'm very bullish on Pocket.
Yeah, so they don't want to do token swaps until we're actually using the thing. That's the whole thing. They only are allowed to sell you tokens if you're going to use those tokens to use the service, basically.
We are using it on DXvote though, no?
What's that?
Like we are using it on DXvote, I think.
Yeah, but we need to use it more, I think. Like they're probably used to some big, projects that are like sending them like a whole boatload of requests or something, and then they can measure it and compare.
I think
I mean,
we
can just
everything we
can
possibly
just
can. Like it's on
can
Swapper,
just
it's on Omen,
DDoS.
it's on DXvote.
We can just DDoS our API endpoint, and then we get the tokens.
We can
what
maybe
we do when we build the cache.
DDoS infrastructure, from the community.
Is there any reason, or is it possible to let other projects, let's say other Gnosis Chain projects or something that are getting a bunch of traffic, like come through us, through our pocket rails? Is that something that would make sense or not, to like build the volume that's coming through DXDAO? Is there a
Probably
benefit?
worth checking what our volume is first, right? We might have enough to just go and talk to them. It wouldn't make sense beyond like trying to get their attention.
Yeah.
At some
Yeah,
point,
I'm also
to
very skeptical
blow
about that
our
like
gateway.
requirement. Like I see API 3 did the token swap like 8 months ago, and like literally no one is using API 3 because there's nothing to use on API 3. So like there are other projects who are getting treated differently, it seems like.
We could also, like, currently, if you connect your MetaMask in DXvote and load it that way, we're just using the whatever RPC is set up in your MetaMask. We could skip that as well. I don't think
Force
it's
everyone to use the
standard
pocket.
thing to. Yeah, if we wanted to, it's kind of a weird thing to do, but
Yeah, I mean, their comment on like having us especially send them many requests was if we wanted to additionally buy an extra amount of tokens, through DX Ventures. But as DXDAO, they are more than happy to create the endpoints for us to start using them even without even purchasing any tokens. That they will cover us until they get their tokens wrapped and sent to Ethereum mainnet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if a token swap is part of DX Ventures. Like previously, I thought like I had a call with them, with a few other DXO members. They had actually no issues with a token swap proposal, but it seems like it changed.
Well, the issue was mainly on our end because we had nowhere to store the POC tokens because they only lived on their network, and we wanted proper custody of those, and the only offer at hand was for us to form a multi-sig on their own network. But now that they will have the tokens bridged to mainnet, it will be a whole different thing. So yeah, but we don't even need to do a swap. We could just purchase them with ETH or stable coins.
Yeah, we were latest leaning away from a token swap because obviously people don't like giving up DXD, especially if it's still undervalued. So it was more going to be a purchase of tokens, for dollars or ETH, basically.
Got it. And there's no way, like Nathan, do you know the status of like the ETH bridge?
Not as of late, yeah. I just realized for some reason I'm no longer in the Discord, and something weird happened yesterday with Curve. I was kick banned, and I'm wondering if it could be related because I was in POC Discord recently, just like a few days ago, and I wonder how that could have happened. I'm still in a ton of other Discord servers that I never visit, and I'm suddenly like no longer in the Pocket Discord, and as we speak now, I'm trying to join it, and I cannot even join it.